this up as I go. Trust me.
Have you ever imagined if James Bond and Indiana Jones are the same guy, but also Chinese? That would be Wisely, or sometimes spelled Wesley, the main character from the Chinese sci-fi adventure classics. He is a former spy, adventurer, corporate CEO, and has friends on basically every continent on Earth. He has a variety of spy gadgets right out of a James Bond movie. He also has a get out of jail free card issued by the Interpol, and he is signed by the police commissioners of every country on Earth, which, let's be honest, is written in so that he doesn't have to deal with local police every single time. And I guess it makes some sense, because Wisely is probably the most experienced adventurer in any adventure story, written by the late Li Kang, a talented novelist who has over 300 books under his name. Wisely debuted in the Hong Kong newspaper in 1963, and his adventure continued for the next 40 real-life years. Later, these writings are compiled and published as individual novels. When the last one came out in 2005, there are already 149 entries to the Wisely series, from ancient homes to outer space, from SCP-like unending apartment building to secret military research base. There is little places on Earth and out of Earth that Wisely have never been to. What's impressive is, out of 150 stories, none of them feel samey. In one story, Wisely will be trapped in an apartment building that stretches up and down into infinity. In another, his consciousness is transferred to an advanced civilization, where people manipulate devices with their hairs instead of fingers. In yet another story, he got beat up by basically Frankenstein's monster with a monkey brain. Anyway, the Wisely series are the first books that I really read for fun. Not required by school, not forced upon by my parents, but as something that I genuinely enjoyed. My very first encounter with Wisely was on my father's bookshelf. He had a couple of copies. The one that caught my eyes is titled 追龍, which literally translates to chasing dragon. I only learned later that it is also an idiom for drug abuse. These stories are not particularly long. I can usually finish one in just 2 to 3 hours. Naturally, the materials at home run out fast, so I went to my local library and they have an entire bookshelf full of Wisely books. You can probably imagine my excitement when I found out I can pick 6 of them and bring them home. For years, I cycled through every single one of them in the library's collection. Even today, I'm still visiting the library regularly. The enduring adventures of Wisely have captured the imagination of Chinese readers for 40 years. Not only because of its variety, but also how the story, and Wisely himself, reflected the author and his view on the world. The Wisely series is mainly written in first person, as if Wisely himself is retelling the adventure. And when Li Kang published these works, he goes by the name Wisely. Even other characters acknowledge that Wisely writes his own books. In a sense, Wisely and Li Kang are one and the same. Li Kang is certainly no spy, no adventurer, no CEO. He is just a writer, but an exceptionally versatile one at that. Over his life, Li Kang has written over 300 novels covering genres such as sci-fi and wuxia. And it doesn't stop here. He also has over 400 screenplays under his belt, making Li Kang one of the most prolific modern Chinese writers, being praised as the talented four, along with Gam Yong, Wang Jin, and Choi Lan for their respective achievements in literature, screenwriting, composing, and lyricizing. Similarly, Wisely built up a reputation of sort of a supernatural consultant, because of the sheer amount of adventure he had, interesting and unexplainable. Many of Wisely's stories actually start with an unexpected visitor bringing him a strange tale or object, usually when he is at home. Then, a couple of pages later, due to Wisely's uncontainable curiosity, we will find him in Egypt, Mongolia, even outer space, or sometimes just seemingly normal apartment building. The plot too varies wildly from story to story. In one book, Wisely can dive headfirst into the wilderness, dealing with ancient mystic arts. In another, it can be a full-on espionage spy thriller, where Wisely has to deal with various intelligence agencies, often from authoritarian government, and this is where Li Khan and Wisely's will converge again. Born in the 30s in mainland China, Li Kuan has witnessed some of the hardest times in modern Chinese history. When Li Kuan came to Hong Kong in the 1950s, he already developed qualities that will later be reflected in his work. And over the years, Li Kuan never really shied away from his liberal standpoint, often criticizing the Communist Party during interviews and in his own writing. In the fictional world, Wisely too has several encounters with authoritarian regimes. While never mentioned by name, the settings and not so subtle hints always make it clear where in the world Wisely is in. Whenever there's need for specification, he always just refers to them as well-known superpowers, or a quiet East European country. If you stop watching right here, you might think Wisely is just a sci-fi adventure series with a anti-authoritarian message. Well, that wouldn't exactly be inaccurate. It will be entirely dismissing the various themes and ideas present in Li Khan's writing. His style is famous for being imaginative and unconstrained. While the first few entries read like a spy adventure, where Wisely fight crime bosses and infiltrate secret facilities, the plot quickly took a turn to the sci-fi and supernatural. Over the years, Wisely has dealt with aliens, super intelligent AI, time traveler, plant people. But no matter how fantastical the plot seems, the themes are always surprisingly grounded. For example, in Blue Blood Being, where Alien first made an appearance in the series, it dealt with the destructive nature of man and the threat of WMD, weapons of mass destruction. The story tells of an alien from Saturn. The alien named Fong is stuck on Earth and has been living among Earthlings for centuries. He looks, works, eats like us, except he's blue-blooded. No, not that kind of blue-blooded. I mean, he literally has blue blood. While trying his best to conceal his identity, he is working undercover in a space program in order to sneak himself onto a probe and hitch a ride home. Fong also possesses more knowledge than the most brilliant Earth scientists. People on Titan is more technologically advanced, morally and culturally superior than us here on Earth. At least that is what Fong thinks. After all, they have already mastered space travel centuries before we do. When Fong finally gets home, he's horrified to find it filled with brain-dead apes. Turns out, Titan has been developing a bioweapon that targets the brain of an organism. While strictly banned on paper, countries still test them in secret. Eventually, Titan's atmosphere got so contaminated, everyone succumbed to the effects of this weapon, and Titan effectively destroyed itself. Even those who are much ahead of us, who deemed themselves to be superior, fall victims to the same fault as humanity. What guarantee that we won't follow in their footsteps? In similar fashion, Wisely deal with and comment on topics like determinism, the AI singularity, technophobia, and much more. Of course, the explorations and discussions into these topics are never really in depth. The Wisely series, being a sci-fi adventure novel first and foremost, acts at most as an introduction to such themes and ideas. If you are like me reading them as a trial, there is a good chance that you won't be able to pick up most of these themes. To 10-year-old me, it wasn't about WMD, or religion, or the singularity. I read them for fun, Indiana Jones-style adventure. But the themes of these stories planted themselves in my mind, only waiting for the right condition to flower. Years later, when I'm mature enough to understand the world around me, I found myself strangely familiar with many of the concepts that shaped our world today. And I can proudly tell you that I first learned about existentialism in a story about a piece of hunted charcoal. Because, have you ever read a textbook? Those things are boring. How am I supposed to be interested in the world when
Trinity was the code name of the first detonation of a nuclear weapon conducted by the United States Army in 1945?
Maybe some weirdo will find this fun, but come on now. I grew up in a culture where children learn only to grind through exam after exam after exam. The most popular activity after school is taking lessons from superstar tutors about how to hack the exam. It isn't about fun. It isn't even about learning. It's just about getting a higher number on your report card. And if you're lucky, a higher number on your future paycheck. You don't get curious students like this. You get gears for a machine that only takes the top 1%. And the rest of us are left wondering, what the f am I gonna do now? They never knew and were never taught anything else other than the machine. There's a whole wide world, a whole universe out there. The only thing we need to do is show them the world. I'm not saying you should read a book about a killer elevator to learn about technophobia, but it's a whole lot better place to start than this.
Technophobia, also known as technofear, is the fear or dislike of advanced technology or complex devices, especially computers.